On this episode of the podcast, we're going to discuss how you can be younger next year. Stick around.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
What is up, party people? It is Coach G. I'm one of the coaching team here at CFE, and on this episode of the podcast, we're going to talk about how you can be younger this time next year. And here's what I mean by that. The human body, the human brain, the human experience is all extremely plastic and adaptable. And the great news is maybe you're in your 30s now, maybe you're in your 40s now, maybe in your 50s, maybe in your 60s now. The good news is whatever age you are, you can start to turn back the clock on your age in terms of like how you feel, how you perform, your life expectancy, your quality of life, and your life experience. And that should be great news for all of us because so many of us come from a background where we've seen our parents or our relatives, we've seen their health deteriorate, and we've seen them fall apart as they aged, and that eventuality frightens us. It's certainly true for me. I watched my father's health fall apart, and excuse me. Excuse me. And I know that for many of you, you resonate with that because you've also seen your parents' health fail them as they age, and you don't want that to happen to you. But the good news is the power is in your hands to turn back the clock and actually become younger as you go along. Now, the clock of time stops for no man, and it will tick forward forever. But the good news is that metabolically, in terms of how your body performs, how you feel, it is possible to make progress and become essentially biologically younger than you are by doing the right things, by eating in a healthy way, by getting out and living an active life, exercising, doing the challenging things each day that it takes. You can start to turn back the clock. An example I've never shared on the podcast, but I'd love to tell, is about my grandfather, Gito. Michael Melnick, we called him Gito. That's the Ukrainian word for grandfather. And my Gito, my grandfather on my maternal side, Michael Melnick, he's probably the best example. If there is anybody in my family who embraced a healthy lifestyle and kind of charted out, set a good example for me, I think he's like he's a person I want to point the attention to, direct the spotlight onto, because he lived one hell of a life. Lived to be over 100 years old. I think he was 102, maybe just shy of 103 when he finally passed on and went to his heavenly reward. But he grew up in the Ukraine, and he was a Ukrainian freedom fighter, and he saw wars, and he saw difficulty and adversity. He saw a lot in his 100 years. And when he came to America, he started a farm, started his own business. That became very successful. He raised a family, and then that family created a lineage and created a legacy that is pretty amazing and pretty impressive. But just as impressive is the person that he was and the life that he lived all the way till the end. Now, my grandfather didn't have access to health care in many of his formative years in the same way that we do. And in his later years, like, his vision did falter, his hearing did falter. But one of the coolest things about Gito was that his mind was still clear. Like, he could still have a conversation with you. His mind was clear. If you asked him how he feels, he'd tell you, I feel good. I feel good. My mind is clear. My body is strong. I can't see as well. And his body was robust and healthy, and he was able-bodied and able to get around and move independently. And when you ask yourself, like, what was it for him that enabled him to maintain a high quality of life despite his advanced age, despite the deterioration of his vision, his hearing, there are a couple things about him that really, I think, were the hallmarks, the things that make a big difference. First, when my grandfather retired from running his farm, he adopted a regular morning ritual that he'd get up in the morning, and the very first thing he would do would be he would go for a walk for a few miles every single day, rain or shine, snow, didn't matter. He'd go out, he would walk a few miles. This was his exercise, his regular daily routine. He'd start his day with activity, with exercise, to keep his body capable. And just that daily ritual of walking kept his body strong and healthy. He also was an intermittent faster. He ate food in an intentional way, but only during certain windows of time each day. And I think that combination for him really helped him. And then also having a perspective, having been through such adversity, so many difficult times. He had seen wars. As I mentioned earlier, he was a freedom fighter for the Ukrainians during some times of conflict in the past. He had a perspective on what it really meant to struggle, and he was able to appreciate goodness and the freedom and all the blessings that this country had to offer. And he felt so blessed by being able to see his children start families and their children start families. And he's like an amazing legacy. He's able to really enjoy and embrace all the goodness that life had to offer. I think it kept his heart and his mind healthy as well. But you could argue that my grandfather was one age when he retired from running the farm. He was a different age. I think you could argue he was younger as he got older, because he was really moving into living his best life. And the longevity, the energy, the vibrance that he projected, that he embodied, all came down to like these healthy lifestyle behaviors that he had of regular exercise and eating in a healthy way. And it set a great example for me. And I think it should be an inspiration for so many of us, because maybe you've only seen people in your family, their health fall apart and collapse. But the good news is it doesn't have to be you. And there's so much great data, so much great science that even if you start in your 40s, even if you start in your 50s, even if you start in your 60s, the human body responds really remarkably well to doing strength training, doing cardiorespiratory exercise. Working on your physical being responds very well, even if you're starting late in life. My grandfather didn't have a habit of walking every single day until later in life. He adopted that habit, and then it blessed his life and his longevity in that same way. The renowned longevity expert, Peter Attia, he says that having good VO2 max, good cardiorespiratory fitness, as well as good strength, you need both. You need both of these training protocols will give you a long, high quality life, that your quality of life, your life expectancy, what he calls lifespan and health span, respond remarkably well to just getting started at any age of life. So maybe you were healthy at one point in the past, maybe you've fallen off the wagon, maybe you're kind of starting from scratch now. The good news is it's not too late. You can still do this. You can still step into a healthier, happier, better version of yourself. It is not too late. You can do this, and I hope that you do. If you need some help with some guidance, what does strength training look like for you? What does cardio, HIIT, metabolic conditioning, what does that look like for you? What's your start point? If you need help with that, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help. You can visit us at CrossFitEdwardsville.com, where you can book a no sweat conversation. Talk to a coach and let them chart out a map for you. What does your healthy living, your healthy life, what do the next years look like for you to step into your healthiest, your happiest, your best self? What's it look like for you to look amazing, feel amazing, live your best life? Our coaching team here would be happy to be your guide and show you what it would take. What are the steps today What's the winnable battle today to move in that direction? And I hope that you reach out to us. We look forward to talking to you. It's Coach G from CrossFit Edwardsville. Hopefully you guys learned something exciting, interesting, and cool in this podcast. Hopefully it got you inspired to go out there and do something cool, to take action. Take action today. We'll talk to you soon, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of the podcast.